Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. Spring training begins tomorrow. Pitchers and catchers report to Northport, Florida. And as always, guys like Michael Harris, the true Gruden grinders, as you like to call them, are already there, already getting some work in, which is always good to see. But there's a number of things we're going to learn about in spring training. Now, I don't necessarily think the Braves are done. I think they still have an addition or two up their sleeve. It happens all the time, especially in MLB free agency. It seems like it keeps getting pushed further and further back. So don't be surprised if that happens. But as currently constructed, we got some big roster battles, starting with the rotation. You got two spots until Spencer Strider is ready, which is believed to happen maybe at the end of April, early May, somewhere on that timeline. He will not be ready for opening day, but regardless, you're going to have at least one competition open for the entire season, two to begin the season. And there's really three candidates that we should be keeping an eye on: AJ Smith-Shawver, Ian Anderson, and Grant Holmes. Guys, all Braves fans should know.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really simple, and I know you think differently from your roster or your opening day projection. Go check it out, sportstalkatl.com. I think this is honestly going to be cut and dry, and it's dependent on one thing. AJ Smith-Shawver has to come out and show unbelievable stuff, and Ian Anderson has to come out and fall flat on his face, him or Grant Holmes, though I think most people would expect Grant Holmes to come out and secure one of those rotation spots, at least from what he showed last year, which was that he's capable of starting every fifth day or sixth day, depending on what the Braves do. But because Ian Anderson is out of options, and like that alone gives him such a big advantage. And I know that you think differently, but I just think AJ Smith-Shawver would have to come out and be so much better. Not just a little bit better, but I think so much better because of that runway that you mentioned, which is about 4 or 5 starts those guys are going to get until Spencer Strider gets back, that Ian Anderson is not only going to have spring training, but maybe 4 or 5 starts to prove before the Braves, release him. That's the only other option of proving that he's capable of hanging in the major leagues again.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely first of all, I want to start off with Grant Holmes. That guy, I would say his chances of making the roster is about as close to 100 as possible. Like, he is getting one of those spots. Yeah. So it's really an open competition for one of those spots leading into the season between Ian Anderson and AJ Smith-Shawver. Obviously, the option thing is going to play a huge factor. It plays a factor in pretty much every decision, especially early in the season when you don't necessarily want to let a guy go and you get an opportunity to keep him and see what he's made of. I'm just not sold on the idea of the Ian Anderson triumphant return. I mean, listen, guys, not only is he coming off Tommy John surgery, only made 15 starts at any level over the last 2 seasons. He wasn't in the major leagues when he was healthy. Like, this was a guy who got sent to Gwinnett before he even had that Tommy John surgery. There were serious question marks about his future before the injury. He has absolutely no horizontal movement on any of his pitches, and it became increasingly obvious as his career waned that it was going to be a huge problem. Now, he started working on things both with his fastball and his off speeds to get some of that and mix that in. And if he can integrate that successfully into his game, not only do I think he could be a piece of this Braves team at the beginning of the season, I think he could be, whether it's a valuable reliever or rotation piece down the road. But I'm not sold. I'm genuinely just not sold. I am of the opinion there's a very good chance Ian Anderson goes out there, really struggles in spring training, and we don't see him in a Braves uniform. Now, that's not what I want to see. We all want to see what we saw in 2022, 2021, 2020, when he first came up and had all this dominance. But, there were a lot of issues with Ian Anderson before the injuries, and the injuries only add into that. Would love to see a triumphant return. It would be a great story. I'm just not sold. But you're right. In terms of just cut and dry, he's out of options. If it's a close race, he's definitely going to get the benefit of the doubt, but not totally sold. And it's possible that he starts out the season in the bullpen. Like, let's say the Braves don't want to use him as a starter. It's very possible they're like, all right, let's try him in a reliever role, a different role where 2 pitches is a lot more successful. I mean, even think about when Ian Anderson was having all of this success. He was a 2-pitch guy that once he got to the 3rd time through the order, he needed to be taken out. And you saw that in the postseason. He was a 4-inning guy. Maybe he is best suited as a long reliever, or they find in even high leverage spots to start utilizing him. I'm just not sold. I have to see it on the field in spring training that he has either developed a third offering or is able to move the ball East and West?
Well, you didn't give me anything to rebut on. You pretty much dotted every I and crossed every T. But I was going to go and touch on a couple of those that, even if he doesn't show you what you want to see in spring training, as far as the length goes, if the stuff just is not even playing, then obviously, it might be over. But if the stuff is playing, but necessarily not in that starter form, he still might be kept on in the bullpen. I think it's obvious. We'll probably talk about it. It's not in any shape to compete for a World Series, though this is obviously not going to be the final form of it. And that's why I think he's going to be kept regardless, because I think they're going to try and give him every single opportunity. And to be honest, they might see all they need to see in spring training. I mean, if you've got, tomato cans teeing up on you in spring training, 4A guys, it's like, yeah, that's, the stuff isn't playing at all. Then, there's not even a possibility that you get moved to the bullpen. Again, and I think the injury, to a certain extent, can kind of, it is obviously not good. It's a net negative. But silver lining, I suck. Oh, it was an injury. At least in your mind, you can kind of be like, well, it was the injury. Now I'm healthy. Now I'm feeling a little bit better. Now I have a little of the confidence. He's got ice in his veins. I mean, in the postseason, this guy's been nails. So maybe the injury a little bit further removed. We know how long that can kind of take to recover from. Maybe that was kind of like a saving grace, so to speak, for Ian Anderson.
I mean, we see guys come back from Tommy John and be better all the time. I mean, this is a guy that's still 25, maybe 26 years old. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities that this could be a reset to his entire career. Give him a little bit of confidence. He comes out, pitches well in spring training, and the rest is history. And he's a huge part of this team. I just haven't seen Ian Anderson pitch well since 2021. I mean, guys, that's a long time. That's 4 years where this guy has not pitched well at the major league level, 2 seasons in which he hasn't pitched at all in the major league level. Now, that's not to say I'm completely counting him out. I'm just saying when I'm making an opening day roster prediction, I think it's foolish to just say, all right, well, this guy, he's out of options. He's definitely going to make it. Because listen, I think he's going to get the benefit of the doubt if it's close. But there's a very good chance this isn't close because, like I said, you haven't seen it in so long.
Yeah, I mean, they're not giving away roster spots. I don't mean it like that. But I mean that because of that option, the best player, you see it every single year, the best player rarely makes opening day if he has the options. You'll see the worst player on the opening day roster because he is out of options. And I think in this same breath, Ian Anderson, make it or break it. It really is because he's out of options. AJ Smith-Shawver isn't far away from the make it or break it moment where it's like, all right, dude, it's time to start putting it together. We need to see some consistency. And obviously, he's got options, so they're going to give him way more time than Ian Anderson. But we're not that far away from AJ Smith-Shawver being like, dude, what's going on?
And we talked a lot about Ian Anderson, but this wasn't like a glowing review of faith for my belief in AJ Smith-Shawver because that doesn't exist as well. I mean, I think he's younger. He's very, very young when he burst on the scene. They maybe put him up there a little too fast, but he did flash at times. So there's still a ton of potential and a ton of stuff that you like. But I'm not sitting here saying AJ Smith-Shawver is ready to be a member of the Braves starting rotation to begin the season. Now, they might not have a choice. I'm strictly speaking more on what we're going to see from Ian Anderson this year because I do think it's either going to be like, all right, this guy has it, or okay, this guy needs to never pitch in the MLB again.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. When you put it like that, I guess it's going to be fairly obvious when you watch Ian Anderson pitch. Like in spring training, it should be because you got some guys in spring training that don't need to be anywhere near a major league roster. And if those guys like Ronald Acuna Jr. or Austin Riley takes you deep, you don't feel too bad about yourself. Austin Riley is one of the best hitters in baseball. If De La Cruz is taking you deep and he's got a 500 average against you, it's like, oh yeah, maybe you don't have it.
Yeah, I think that's it's like I said, it's going to be easy to see. And I think Ian Anderson's probably the number one guy that I'll be watching this spring training, especially early on, because I think we're going to know pretty quickly whether Ian Anderson has a chance of making this roster and probably will get the benefit of the doubt, or we've seen the last of him in a Braves uniform. And I think that's probably the biggest storyline of spring training. But you mentioned the bullpen. Let's talk a little bit about that and what the Braves have to do to make this a serviceable unit by opening day.